Today's Q&A is about the zoo, and the question is, we're planning a trip to the zoo, and is there anything we should know or learn about Kashrus while we're there? So there's lots and lots of Kashrus information that you could see firsthand at the zoo with very minimal effort. The simplest is that the Torah says that kosher animals are the ones which chew their cud and have fully split hooves, and both of those are pretty easy to notice. Animals that chew their cuds, like cows, giraffe, antelopes, oryxes, and yaks, seem to always be chewing as if they got a piece of bubble gum in their mouth. So that's pretty easy to notice them now. But then you'll notice that camels and other animals that are related to them, like alpacas and llamas, are also chewing their cud, and we know that those are not kosher. So the truth is that the Torah says specifically there are 3 species of animals that do that. That means they chew their cud but don't have split hooves. And the gumball, the camel, is one of them. There's different opinions about what the other 2 are, but gumball is one of them. And the reason why camels are not kosher is because they chew their cud, but their hooves are not split all the way through. Now, to see split hooves is not as easy as seeing an animal chewing its cud, and you have to get a little closer to the animal to see that. A hoof is like a nail. It's sort of like a nail, and it covers the bottom of the animal's foot. And if you look at that part if you look at at the bottom of the foot in a deer or sheep or another kosher animal, you'll see that the hoof is split right through, right down the middle, as if into 2 separate toes, so to speak. Now, if you look in contrast, you look at a horse's hoof, you'll see it's not split at all. And if you look at a camel's hoof, you'll see that it is partially split, but there's a padding on the bottom of the foot that goes under all of the, so to speak, toes, and that's why it's not split all the way through. Now, that just as an aside, that padding helps the camels be more stable while they walk on the sand in the desert. Anyhow, so Torah tells us there is one animal that has split hooves but doesn't chew its cud, and that's the pig and the related animals like a warthog. So they have the opposite, where they have split hooves, but they do not chew their cud. Now, another thing is that you'll notice that just about every animal which has horns is kosher. Actually, some people hold that it's the one sheet in the Gemara is saying that a horn proves that an animal is kosher. That's a question whether that's what the Gemara says. One opinion holds like that. So if you see animals with unusual horns, like an eland or an addax or a moose, you can be pretty sure that what you're looking at is a kosher animal. Now, at the same time, you have to be aware that in most species, only the males have horns, but not the females. Also, antlers. Antlers are branched horns that you find on animals that are like a deer. They get shed for a few months every year. So those animals also will not have, for those months of the year, those animals will not have any horns. And there are some animals that are kosher, like chevrotains and musk deer and swallows, that don't have horns at all. So the lack of horns doesn't mean the animal is not kosher, but the presence of horn is a pretty good indication that the animal you're looking at is a kosher animal. Now, talking about horns, you should just be aware, this is not a kashrus per se, that a shofar cannot be made from antlers. Again, those are the branched horns that come on, they're branched and they're solid, that come on deer and animals like that, or from ossicones. Ossicones are the horn-like things that are on giraffes and okapis. And the horns of any animals in the cow family, all those cannot, and from certain other ones, cannot be used for making a shofar. So not every single horn or horn-like item is kosher for a shofar, and the preference is to actually always use horns from a ram. Okay, but that's really beyond what we have to talk about. Now, moving from animals to birds, things get a little more complicated because the Torah doesn't tell you how to know which bird is kosher or not kosher. All it tells you is the names. It tells you the names of a bunch of all the non-kosher birds, and doesn't tell you how to look at a bird and tell if it's kosher. Chazal tells us certain features that we could look for, and we could figure out from which animal, whether a bird is kosher. And 2 of those features are pretty easy for anybody to see. One is that when most birds, kosher or treif, stand on a pole or a wire, what they do is they put 3 of their fingers on the front of the pole and 1 finger behind it. If a bird perches with 2 fingers in the front and 2 in the back, that's a sign that this is a non-kosher bird. So that's the 3 and 1 is not a sign that it is kosher, but 2 and 2, 2 in the front and 2 in the back, is a sign that the animal is not kosher. The bird is not kosher. The other sign that we have is that there are some poskim of the opinion that if a bird which has webbed feet and a wide bill is that it itself is a siman that it's kosher, and that includes most geese and ducks. Now, that while that's true that that's a simon for a kosher bird, the custom, Ashkenazim's custom, is that we only eat the handful of birds that we have a Masorah that they're kosher. So just not every duck and every goose, even ducks or geese, are going to be kosher. Only the specific types that we know that we have a Masorah that they're kosher. Okay, and one last thing is to think about is what the animals eat, and that is animals, of course, don't have to eat kosher, and they can eat whatever they want to, but there are certain tray foods which not only can't we eat, but we're not allowed to have hanar from them. We can't have any benefit of them, and which means is we can't feed them to our pets. And just like we can't feed them to our pets, we can't feed them to zoo animals either. The two most common examples of foods that are asur b'hana are chametz on Pesach and basar b'chalal, which means milk and meat that were cooked together. So there are definitely pet foods that have these things, that have chametz in them or basar b'chalal. And sometimes the animal feed you buy at the zoo to feed to the animals could have them also. So you have to pay attention to make sure you don't have one of those in there, so you won't be violating the isser of having hanar from basar b'chalal or from chametz.